Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the latest 3 days of this placement diary. I know I'm pretty bad at keeping it up daily. I had a pretty hectic week this week though. It was my girlfriend's birthday. We had to spend time together on one of the nights. And one of the other nights I wasn't feeling too fantastic. I've really done some kind of strange injury to my back on placement. So, once I got home that night, I went straight to bed and then I was out for the count. So I'm kind of back to normal now. Shoulder and back it's right back here somewhere, and lifting it up this high kind of hurts. So may have to make a wee trip to the doctors if that doesn't improve soon. But there you go. Here we are for the placement review for the past couple of days. Oh, and to summarise the summary of the placement so far, the midway through. That video has corrupted completely. I don't know what happened to it. It just started like completely being desynced. There was really no way of me to fix it. Now I kind of want to re-record it, but the problem I have with that is it's kind of not as relevant now because I know what's happened. I can't even really get the scripting off it. I've just deleted the file now. There was literally nothing I could have done to save it. As far as I was aware, I spent a good couple hours Googling, just seeing if I can resync the audio, but no, there was no way for me to really make that work as such. But there you go, these things happen, I can learn from that, and hopefully, it won't happen again. So we'll start here from day, I think we want to say 18, days 18, 19 and 20. The level of responsibility that I was given was really ramped up this week, and I loved it. I have to say that it's been really good. It's been challenging, of course, but it's been really pretty special, and I've enjoyed it every step of the way. So here we go for day 18. I arrived circle time, and for registration today they did something a little bit different. They decided to do the register quietly, just whispering, and everyone had to whisper their responses. It was good. I liked the way that they did this. It kind of taught the children sort of this level of control. They were all really, really excited, so it calmed them down. That definitely did happen. It sort of displayed the lady's dominance over the children. Like, this is what you do. You will listen to us, and if you don't, you get taken out of the circle. It's good. It prepares them for school life, I'd say. It prepares them to, respect the authoritative figure in the room and just basically do what they tell you. So that was good. I liked that. One of the ladies brought in a Nintendo Wii for the children to have a shot of, so I was like, okay. My director of studies and my placement tutor is Derek Robertson, who was actually quite is litigious the word to use here, in the forefront of putting technology like video games into schools and school environments. So I thought, well, this will be good. This will be interesting to see how this plays out. And obviously, being who I am, I knew how to set it up and stuff. The ladies weren't too sure, so got that all set up, and I was kind of helping the children teach them how to use it. And what it was they were doing, it was just Wii bowling. It was nothing, wasn't too exciting, but it was just getting them to sort of mimic them. I will forever move this arm and hurt myself. Just hold the controller and then bring it back, bring it forward, and then let it go. On the surface, it doesn't seem like there was that much going on, but it's kind of training their brain to, to sort of multitask here. They had to hold these buttons down, bring it back, bring it forward, then let it go. It was to do with motor skills more than anything else, I'd say. In terms of success with that, the youngest children, the 2-year-olds, really needed a lot of help. I don't think any of them really grasped it by the end, which is fine. They got the general swing in motion. They knew what they had to do, but trying to explain to them that they had to hold on to the button and then let it go afterwards, it just really wasn't happening. For lack of a better word, they weren't keen on it at all. But the older children, the 3s and 4s, they could manage. Once they were shown a couple of times, they were able to do it themselves, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. So that was an interesting, new resource that was brought in. I liked that. We went for outside play. That was fine. I noticed that one of the practitioners was using a shoe game where they were teaching the children, proportions. Is it proportion? Oh, my brain is frazzled. It's such a glorious day outside. This is the last thing I'm really thinking about, which is very unprofessional, I know. It was teaching them the differences between, sizes. So it was saying child's name shoes. I'm going to use completely random names here. They're not children in the nursery. These are just random names, for example. That's a full disclaimer. We said Stephen's shoe and Erica's shoe and Leanne's shoe and Ewan's shoe and a policeman's shoe. Just teaching the difference between like children's shoes obviously smaller, and then the older you get the bigger it gets, sort of thing. So that was good. I liked that game. And once they had done that, they said who's got the biggest shoe, and then it was the policeman. Who's got the smallest shoe? It was, did I say Stephen? I can't even remember. Stephen's shoe was the smallest. So the difference between sizes was taught there. So that was really good. It wasn't as much of a challenge, obviously, for the older children, the 4-year-olds. But the 2-year-olds, it was good for them, I think, to see that happening, because, that could be brand new for some of them, for all we know. So it was really good. Good reinforcement there. We had our staff meeting in the afternoon, which was, again, really quite useful. We talked about a lot of things, but the problem we have is that the deputy manager was out. She wasn't, she wasn't in the building, and the manager herself was unfortunately called away for another meeting. So we were kind of just, it was just us sort of running the show, as it were. So the things that were discussed were really just what do the children want to do for the rest of the week, and then just any other business. That's all that was really discussed. It was discussed that we are going to go to an art gallery on Wednesday. 2 groups decided that they wanted to go to an art gallery, and I volunteered myself. I said, look, that'd be great for me. That'd be great for me to put my folder to see how the children act on an outside environment. I think that'd be fantastic. So I'm allowed to go along with them, so that's really good. So we'll see how that pans out later on in the week. Obviously, now that I'm in the second half of my placement, this is something I discussed in the infamous placement review that's gone walkabout. I discussed the fact that now that I'm halfway through the placement, I'm into the latter half, into the twilight weeks of my placement, shall we say. I want to do as much as possible. I've taken a back seat for a lot of the placement, but for the most part, the later in I'm getting, the more responsibility I'm taking on, the more I'm getting involved, the more I'm getting down to the level of the children, the more I'm interacting with them, and the less I'm using this thing. This is this is the book that I've been kind of keeping in my hand. Like, I've been glued to this thing for the 3 weeks that I've been there, but this week I'm kind of just left it in the staff room, and if anything really, really important happens, I write it down. I'm pretty much done with the observations. I'm no longer just sort of sitting, try to see how everything works. I now know how the nursery works. I've had that 3 weeks here. And I discussed this with the members of staff. They're like, yeah, you can. They didn't say, oh, you've not been doing enough. They're like, do you want to do more? We know that your placement here isn't really to be this integrated member of staff, and we're giving you all the advice that you can give you, but are you getting out of this placement what you want to get out of it? I said, yes, I am. And it's like, so I said, what can I do for you, sort of thing? Can I be doing more? Is there more you want me to do? Because if I'm doing more, then it's all great experience for me. It's fantastic experience for me working with children and doing a little bit more. Not to say that I've not been working hard while I've been there, but I've kind of been working hard in the background, as it were. I've been getting involved with the children for the majority of the day, but I'm spending a lot of the time, just observing, and then, things like that. So I've taken on a bigger role for these last 3 weeks, and I think that's going to be really useful. Anyway, so that tangent came from that we're going to go to this art gallery, and I was like, yeah, I want to go. The children all like me now. They're all familiar with me, and I think it'd be good for me to sort of test what they'll be like outside of the nursery. That was all that was really discussed. We had lunchtime. That was fine. Story and quiet time was good. What have I wrote here? The word spindly was used. Thought that was quite funny. The children were all interested in the word spindly. I think it came from a story. And we obviously taught them the meaning, spindly and things like that. So that was interesting for them to know. It's expanded their vocabulary, certainly. None of the children knew what it meant, so now they do. Maybe we'll come back to that. It's all about giving them as much preparation for future as we can. We went outside again because the weather was absolutely glorious on Wednesday. Not seen a day like it for a while, so we thought, well, the best thing to do here is just to take the children out. Let's not have afternoon group time. I had an activity planned for afternoon group time, which I had to postpone. It's just teaching me to be adaptable to the situation. The weather was so good, the children wanted to go outside. We went outside. That's what happened. The children, you wouldn't say the children are in charge, but the children want to take responsibility for their own play and their own learning in the nursery, so allowing them to do that was more important in the opinions of myself and of the practitioners. Now, so apologies if the P's are coming across really strong with this microphone. I have ordered a pop filter for it, but it just hasn't arrived yet, so okay. When we were outside for the second time, of course this happened on Wednesday, there was a playground incident in which a child thought it would be a good idea to bite me on the arm. Now, I don't think the bite is still very visible, but you can hardly see it. So there's a red mark here still where the teeth have went in. It's a bit bumpy. But this was through a jumper. This was a really strong bite. Now, I had to fill in an incident form and everything because she broke the skin. Which, you know, kudos to the child. That was through a jumper. That was pretty impressive, I must admit. But all seriousness, it was pretty serious. We got the child to apologise in the end. She was really upset about the whole thing. I think she just got really excited by the play that we were having. It was me and her little friend. We were playing in the playground. They were kind of, you know, grabbing onto my arms and just kind of running back and forward. And then they ran in to cuddle each other and cuddle me, and then child decided to, you know, turn in and bite. So I kind of took an opportunity there to ask around and see what the reasoning could have been for that. You know, that's so out of character for this child. She's very well behaved. She's a lovely little girl, and she's usually been like really friendly, especially towards me. And it turned out that I think the sort of underlying reason, if we were to, you know, not to point the finger of blame in any way, shape or form, but to, you know, to see what their maybe reasoning was behind it. I think there's a new baby on the way in the house, and she is starting to feel, not neglected because that's a really strong word to use, but she's starting to feel like, oh, she's going to have to share the attention of her parents with a little brother or a little sister. So I think I found out that there was other out of character actions that were happening for this child, like you know, not making it to the toilet on time, if you understand what I mean. Things like that were happening. So the nursery are doing their best that they can to sort of iron that out. They're kind of speaking to her, just saying, you know, mum and dad aren't going to love you any less, you know, just comforting the child, because that's really all she needs. She just wants the attention. I think that was the problem there. So anyway, an incident form was filled out. I actually have the incident form here, copy of which will be found in my folder. But the incident form, actually, I'm not going to show the incident form as of yet because the form has the child's name on it yet. I've not Tipp-X'd that out, so I can't really show you that right now. But yeah, so that happened. I basically just had to fill out what happened, what was done, who was there, who witnessed it, what action was further taken to, you know, explain to the child, and then her father had to come in and sign that and, you know, deal with it in his way, and that's really how that works. So a very eventful day on Wednesday, to say the least. In the afternoon we had a birthday party for a child whose birthday was at the weekend, but obviously she wasn't in on the Monday because of the in-service day, and she wasn't in on the Tuesday because I don't think she comes in on a Tuesday. So we had the child's party then. Really good. Their mother brought in a piñata, which was really interesting. So it was at that point I got to see a risk assessment being done by a member of staff. A copy of that, again, can be found in my folder, just to say obviously what their identified areas of risks were. It's a piñata, you know, they're swinging it, they could hit each other. What actions been taken to avoid that, you know, have them circle around but keep a good distance, and if they're all holding hands they won't move closer. Certain things like that, it all worked out really well. Turned out the piñata was all the fun in the world. The children were whacking it, but it never broke. It was really tough. All the members of staff had a shot as well, and no one could break it. I had a shot, and then I didn't break it, and then a couple other people had a shot, and then they gave it back to me, and then I just went completely like mental at it and just whacked it a couple of times, and then it broke and all the sweeties came out and the children were cheering, they were running about daft. They really enjoyed themselves at that, so again, fantastic. I was really, really thrilled by the way that the children interacted with it, and they all loved it. So there we go. There we go, the incident form again, and then it was just free play and then home time for me. So there we go, day 18. A bit more eventful than usual. I talked about the Easter cards the last time, that's fine, all the children took those home. Day 19, we have arrived, circle time, Reggie, but this time they used the second name first. That was good. It taught the children to listen out for both their names, if it was like Mr. I'm just going to use my own name. If it was just, Mr. Dixon, and then they would say, here, because they'd have to listen for their second name. So that was really good. I liked the way that the nursery did that. Thought it was interesting to, see the ones who were actually listening instead of just, hearing their first name, the ones who know their second names. So it was really good. Hello song was done. Discussion of how they were feeling. That was always good. They tend to do that most days, just, how are you feeling? Turn and talk to your partner. That was obviously at the request of the children, as I've mentioned in a previous video, so, good to see that still happens. Day of the week was done. Again, great. And then they went for free play. Free play today was really good. I managed to spend the majority of the time during free play today doing, sort of setting up my activity for the orange group, because I had them that day. So that was really good, because the deputy manager was off. I managed to have our group. Sorry, I'm just getting the plans up here so that I can talk you through what I did. 1C, MA2 placement, here we go. And activities, Easter bunny card, Lego with language. Yep, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. The group time I don't think actually happened on Thursday, now that I think about it. Let me just get my written reflection up. Day 19. Apologies for the sort of lapse in preparation here. If, Microsoft Word would like to open, that would be fantastic. I think I'm going to have to reset my whole laptop because this is not fun. I'm going to have to wipe everything off it and open it up again. Again, apologies for the ramblings. I really could do with this opening now though. Come on. I'm not even in a program where I can, pause the video either. Okay, Word is starting. Oh good, Word is starting on 3 different times. Cancel, close, okay, here we go, happy days. Yeah, I had a small meeting with the manager, apparently, on day 19. What happened there? Let me scroll down and find out, shall we? Okay, go away, Microsoft. There's the second name, talking about that, the second name register. Okay, yeah. So during the free play segment today, I came across the fact that there are so many children who are ready to go to school. Some of which, after discussing this with the manager and stuff, the manager told me, she was like, these children are ready to go to school. They were ready to go to school last year, but at the request of the parents they decided to stay. We obviously offered our 2 cents and we said, maybe it's better to send them to school just now, they'd be ready for it, but the parents said no, and that's, it's completely their own choice, and we can see it from their point of view. They want their children to get the most out of the nursery time there, and they don't want to feel like they're throwing the children into school too early, which is absolutely fine. But these children are more than ready for school. I could name child P for one. She is very, very ready for school. And a couple of her friends as well. You can just tell the way that they act around me and around other members of staff, they're ready to have that sort of discipline in place, that sort of regimented activity in primary school. They're ready for structure, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. So luckily they don't have much longer to wait. You know, they only have like a month or two. First free play section I spent engaging with the children. So yeah, this is all that really happens during the free play of the day now. Either as I'll talk about tomorrow, either I'm setting something up and preparing something for free play specifically, or I'm just sitting at a table where the toys are with the children, interacting, helping them build, helping them play with the cars, helping them do whatever it is that they need to do. And it's great. It's a really good working environment, and I really enjoy sort of being there for that. And those are some of the better parts of the day during the free play, because that's when you can see the children at their finest, you know, taking complete responsibility for their own learning. It's brilliant. Okay, that's become the norm mostly. So I was once again tasked with taking the orange group for group time today. Here we go. Okay, so this is what happened. I had planned an activity for the orange group to do this week, and I had to keep on postponing it because of sort of mitigating circumstances, like when there was a lack of staffing, because there was this, because there was that, because there was the afternoon meeting, and then there was a party, you know. There was so many reasons that I had to keep postponing this, and it ended up that during the week I didn't get this lesson done, and it's fine. It's not a huge problem. I might end up doing it with them on Monday if it's still relevant, because it's still Easter Monday. It was an Easter based activity where I was going to put them down to in front of the computer and let them watch. It's a Peter Rabbit video. Now it's a Peter Rabbit video based around Easter, and the sort of nature of the program sort of led itself to questions for the children afterwards. So I was going to say, so who was the main character in this story? You know, that was to teach them the sort of similarities between a book and, you know, a film. What happened, and did he look like he was happy? Did he look like he was sad? All things like that. So it was going to be pretty good. I was really looking forward to doing it, but unfortunately, this was not feasible. We had to get in a. Please open. And words are not coming to me. Yes, a supply nursery practitioner in today. Well, for Thursday is what I'm looking for. We had to get one in because there was a complete lack of staffing, and there were so many children in that day that things were, you know, pretty heavy going, to say the least. So instead of doing this activity, I asked the children what they would maybe like to do. Now, it was the orange group, so, you know, we're talking none older than 2 years old, the very, very young children. I said, what would you like to do? And they were like, we want you to read us a story, Ewan. So I was like, okay, so what do you like the most? And they were like, they kind of said some weird things that there weren't really books on, you know, like Ben 10 and One Direction, things like that, just, you know, kids stuff. So I asked one of the practitioners, like, is there anything that the group really, really enjoy? And she said, yeah, they're really quite into tools and building and crafting. So I found a book that was about tools, and I read it to them, and they really enjoyed it. I think it was called like Clip, Clap, Bang, Bang or something. And basically it was just all like clay tools with eyes, pictures of them, and it said the hammer goes bang, bang. And when it got to the end, it says, what do these noises do these make? So I was able to read the story to the children. They were all liking it. I was asking them, what's your favourite? It's like, mine's is the hammer, mine's is the screwdriver, you know, things like that. And I asked them what noises they made. They were getting them right, and that was fun. But by the end of the story, you could tell that some of them, there was a new area that had been set up. It was a kitchen and home area to replace the old one. And I decided to, they were all kind of sitting staring at it while I was reading the story, some of them, and I thought, well, you know, they're really excited to go in there. There's only another 10 minutes left of group time after this story was done, so I just kind of let them go in and have their fun there, and they loved it. They loved interacting with the bacon, sort of the oven toy, and like the couches that were there, and they were all pretending to have a meal. I was like, so who's going to be the chef? You know, I kind of set up the play. They were all sitting down, they all had their cutlery, and they were banging it on the table and stuff. And one child was like, I'm going to make the dinner, and it's like, what are you making? And I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. What is he going to say he's making? Is he making spaghetti? Oh, is he making soup? He's like, oh, I'm making food. So I just that was a big face palm moment there. I was like, oh, great. But yeah, it was good to interact with the children on that level, because they chose to be there. They really wanted to be in that area, so letting them do that was just fantastic, in my opinion. They loved it. After that we had, sorry, I'm just trying to look at my time here. Second group segment. Yeah, the second group segment. This one was really, really interesting. It kind of showed how poorly domesticated I was. The children earlier in the week decided that they wanted to make cakes. As I'd mentioned in the previous video, they decided we want to make cakes for Easter. So I was like, okay, who am I to say no? There was a lot of merged group activities going on, so I decided to ask one of the group, other group leaders if I could kind of if I could take my group but kind of look over her shoulder every so often to make sure I was doing this right. And they made nest cakes. So what they did was they got shredded wheat and melted chocolate and mixed it up in the bowl. Each child was allowed to have a shot of mix in, put in the chocolate in, and then they would put it into their cups all smushed together, and then they'd put a mini egg in it, and they ate it up. They loved it. They really enjoy baking. And because they're so young, not having any heat involved or anything like that, just having it as simple as possible was great. It was fantastic. They love getting messy and they love making the cakes, and then they had them the following afternoon. So it was a challenge for me, I will admit. It turns out it was like the easiest thing in the world to make. You just break it out, you put the chocolate in, mix it all together, and then just put it to the side. That's literally all you had to do. But being as poorly domesticated as I was, I really didn't know what I was doing at first. But we eventually got there. Not before I burnt the chocolate in the microwave though, of course, because I'm such a idiot in that regard. But there we go. It turned out really well. A really fun afternoon for them. And I got a lot of positive feedback from the children and from the members of staff. Like, yeah, well done, thank you for doing that, you've been a good help and all that. So I was like, yeah, great. So I must be doing something right, to summarise there. After this we just had free play, and then I was home again. So now we get to the pièce de résistance, the first day that I didn't write a single thing down in this book because I was so busy the whole day, was yesterday, and that was Friday. And Friday was a really good day. If the rest of the days on placement are like this, I'm going to be very, very happy. I arrived, circle time happened, register, hello song day and weather, standard start to the day. Free play happened, and after a discussion with a member of staff the day before, I said, on sort of acting on what you were saying earlier in the week, if I want to do more, just mention. It's like, I would really very much like to do more. And they were like, okay, what would you like to do? So I said, see, tomorrow, can I open up an area to myself? Now, I'll provide all the sort of resources and stuff for the area. Well, not provide, set up the resources and stuff for that area and look after it myself. That gives me like a full 2 hours to have the children there and see sort of how much they're enjoying what I'm doing. So they said, yeah, that would be a great idea. We could use another area open as well, so that would be nice of you if you could do that. So it's brilliant. I decided to open the art area, as I often like to do. So what I decided to do was I put out the sandbox, because the children play in the sandbox. I put out some Easter colour in it. Actually, no, that's not true. That happened later on. I put out, I asked the children what they would maybe like to do, and they said, we want to make Play-Doh. So I was like, okay, great, more baking, more things that my poor undomesticated self can't really handle. So I was like, no, I will learn for the children, so I will find out what to do. Turns out you need oil, salt, flour, and a mixing bowl. You mix it all up, then food colouring to make it coloured, or paint, because food colouring stains their hands. So I was all ready to go for that. I had that area set up, and then one of the, sort of fortunately but also unfortunately, I think the freezer broke in the nursery. So they were like, look, we have these balloons that we froze ages ago that we were going to use for an activity. They need to be used today. Do you want them? I thought, yeah, this will be great. So basically I just took these balloons full of ice, and I put them out in the water tank, sort of water tub. You've seen them before, I'd imagine, that they have in the nurseries. And I put down hammers and just saws and stuff like that, so they could just basically smash the ice, feel the ice and things like that. So that was good. But when I went to go and make the Play-Doh with them, unfortunately there was no salt in the nursery. So I went up and I says, boys and girls, there's no salt, we can't really make the Play-Doh. And to what they turned around and said, we don't want to make Play-Doh anymore, we want to colour in. I was like, oh, Oh dear. So I was like, okay, you know what, fine, then we'll have some colouring in sheets about Easter. Made sure that there was writing on them. Actually, we've got one couple here. We had a Happy Easter here. That I thought this one was the most interesting. It turned out to be the most popular. I took a little bit of a, not a tally, but just to see which were the most popular. This was the most popular sheet. I think it's because it has the writing on it and it also has a lot to colour in, especially amongst the older children. And they said we want to just draw and colour in, so I set up an art area with pens and pencils, and yeah, I had that area to myself the whole time, and it was brilliant. I loved it. I loved looking over the area. I got to sit, I got to interact with the children, I got to have a lot of fun with the children in the area. And you know, I think I'd done pretty well overall. The children seemed to enjoy the activities that I put out for them, and they also, you know, it's just lots of positive feedback, like, oh Ewan, we really like the ice, we should do this more. These are some really good colouring sheets, just things like that, you know. I made sure that everything was completely safe. You have to kind of do mini risk assessments, not written down, but you know, just mentally sometimes for things like this, because the children are so young. One of them was in the ice area. You know, they're smashing ice with hammers. I managed to get them goggles, I managed to get them aprons, and yeah, that was pretty much that, and things couldn't have really went any better, and I was really happy. So after the first free play, it was group time. I was away to have the orange group again, I believe, but something happened, didn't it? I'm trying to, oh yeah, of course, sorry, just trying to recall my memory here and look at my notes at the same time. We decided to have like a sort of merged group time, wherein the children wouldn't go with their original groups. There would just be lots of stations open and the children could choose which station they wanted to go to. With it being Easter, me and one of the other members of staff were in charge of egg painting, well, egg pen colouring in, I guess you could call it. So there was lots of hard-boiled eggs that were boiled in the morning, and we just had them out on the table. The children would just colour in the eggs and stuff. That was great. They really enjoyed having that done. Just, you know, lots of good stuff going on. The other areas had painting of, you know, other Easter themed things. Like one of them was an Angry Bird egg, and the children's all really enjoyed making one of those, of course. And another one was for making Easter cards, since my one was so popular. I think the children were desperate to make more, and I was like, oh, that's fantastic that I've thought of an activity here that children are really keen to do, the ones that weren't in my group. So another member of staff took over that though, because I was already on the art area, on the egg making area, and children could kind of just come and go as they pleased, and that was a good merged group time. Everyone was mixing, every child got to do what they wanted to do, apart from child E, who ironically was the one who bit me, but she wasn't able to do it because she's allergic to eggs, so that was something that we had to deal with. But she was okay, she wasn't, you know, inconsolable. She wanted to do it, but we explained to her, it's like, no, you're allergic to eggs, honey, it'll make you really unwell, and she was fine with it. She went and did something else, and she had a ball. After that we had our lunch, which was fine, nothing really to report there. Free play started instead of story and quiet time, just because, again, the sort of lack of staffing that we had, there wasn't really, the children were all really excitable as well, and they just wanted to play a little bit more, so we decided not to bother with story time. Instead there was a member of staff in the quiet room who sat and just basically read stories to any children who wanted to hear them. Now, about halfway through this, we started to plan for the afternoon, where we're going to have a treasure hunt in the back garden, which turned out to be fantastic. I was tasked with taking all the treasures out and hiding them in the garden, and it was great. It was really good fun. There's just lots of, like, you know, little toys, like there was small sort of dog figurines and Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse key rings, just all, pardon me, sort of things like that. And it all worked out very well. I hid them around the garden, the children went out and found them, and then they had free play in the garden with the garden resources, and that was all, you know, really great. They had our snack outside as well, where the children were able to eat their cakes, their Easter cakes that they had made the day before. And by the time that happened, we basically stayed out all afternoon because, again, the weather was as it is just now. If I just don't drop the microphone and open this, you can see the glorious sunshine coming in. It is now 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, yeah, crazy times. By the time we were all out there, it was time for me to finish, you know. So, other notable things that happened, I did that test that I finally got a chance to do, the test with the resources. I did it with Easter themes, so I put out these. This was the Happy Easter. This is Minnie Mouse with giving an Easter egg to Chip or Dale, never tell the two apart. This is Mickey Mouse with Pluto popping out of the egg, and this is just a generic chick as well. And the order of popularity, it turned out, much to my surprise actually, maybe I'm just not appealing to the interest completely. Maybe I'm just kind of generalising with, you know, using Mickey Mouse, because you know, I did my sort of research before, as you've seen in the old videos, about how Disney is sort of like a big influence on the children in the nursery. Maybe that's not as prominent as it used to be, because this right here was the most popular one. Now, reasons why, I asked the children. It says because there's lots to colour in, and it's because it's got the letters on it. I think it's because it had writing on it that was one of the big determining factors, and because there's just so much going on. It's a very busy sheet, lots of patterns and stuff to colour. Second most popular was, let me just get out here, the Mickey Mouse with this coming out. Third most popular was this one here, and there was about 2 of these left out of, I think I printed out maybe like 5 or 6 of each, so there was 2 of these left and there was none left of any others. So yeah, that was a really interesting, you know, bit of field research, would you call it? I don't really know what you would call it, but it was interesting to see that really knowing your audience is important, because I was under the impression that I knew what the children had wanted, and turns out I was wrong. What they wanted was completely different. It just maybe shows that they can sometimes be unpredictable, especially at such an early stage in their life. So you need to be adaptable, and I think that's been the key theme of this week, is being adaptable. And I've had to do it quite a lot. I've had to be very, very flexible this week. I've had activities planned that I've went to pop because you know, things have changed. We've had, you know, afternoon activities and sort of suggestions just kind of put to one side because the weather was so good. We wanted to go outside. There's not always a time in Dundee for these children to go out when it's weather's as good as this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we take this into next week. I spoke to the nursery manager. I says I kind of want to take on more responsibility. I've managed to do the register now for 2 days. That felt for Friday and for Thursday. That's what I'm trying to say here. I took the register after coming in from afternoon garden time, I want to call it. I took the register for both times of that, and that was really good. It filled me with a lot of responsibility. I had to make sure that all children were present and accounted for, and it's preparing me for, you know, when I eventually, you know, done have my own class. I'm going to need to do that, so that was really good. And I spoke to the manager. I says, look, is there more I can be doing? I want to take an afternoon next week to myself. I want to just, as soon as children come in from their outside play in the afternoon, I want to have them to myself. So instead of group time, I will provide what they would call a party. And whenever there's a whole class activity in the afternoon, it's called a party. So what I'm going to plan to do is probably play some party games, some musical bump, some musical statues, and then some circle time. And I'll put out, you know, like toys and stuff on the table for when I'm done with that, so that free play is ready. And we'll play some of the circle games that they're most accustomed to. And I think that'll be really good, because they really seem to enjoy things like that. And I think it will be interesting to see how well they behave for me. If I'm the head of the circle, if the other practitioners are there on an observatory basis as opposed to me, just be me and the whole you know, entire nursery. So I'll get back to you with that one and let you know how that went. But again, thank you for joining me. This has been an absolute pleasure to be doing this. I'm kind of bunching up days together just because I don't want to. I feel like if sometimes I take a bit longer to make these videos, I can record them at a time where, you know, I'm not just doing them for the sake of getting it done. I mean, here we are with a 40-minute video, but it's covering 3 days as opposed to just me rambling on and on and on about one day because I'm really, really tired after being in the nursery for that amount of time. So that's going to do it. Thank you once again for joining me, and I will see you on Monday for Monday's reflection. Bye bye.